So there's this conspiracy theory. There's a lot of different interpretations of what the Illuminati really is. Some just say it's a secret fraternity of very powerful people that all went to Yale and are in Skull and Bones and whatever. But other people take it one step further and say, no, the Illuminati is actually an alien race, a reptilian alien race that controls us at the genetic level and all these crazy things. And I was trying to think, why are all these seemingly intelligent people writing these big, huge, documented research books, source books about why this is true and that they're actually alien reptiles that have been manipulating human beings for thousands and thousands of years. And I wanted to try to look at it just, anthropologically or from a psychological perspective. What complex in our current social psyche is causing this type of phenomenon to occur. We can look at alien abductions in the same way. That the modern age is so spiritually void and nihilistic that aliens represent the only form of angels that we can still believe in, of beings who are more advanced than we are, coming from heaven in order to save us. Um, a highly evolved alien species arriving in a UFO is really the only way we can conceptualize or experience that archetype in our modern mechanical, technological worldview. So, in the same way, what does this reptilian Illuminati stuff mean? What kind of a archetype is that? And I think it has a lot to do with what Gary in Mentam always talks about, how there's this inner reptilian selfishness that sometimes bubbles up in human beings. And I think, the Earth and the species that have developed on Earth, going back millions and millions and billions of years, I think the Earth is performing a series of experiments. And the dinosaurs, the reptiles, were the first experiment, and they were too big, and they expanded too much energy. They were just meat eaters, and they were huge, and so powerful and vicious and self-interested. Even though um, a lot of research, the minimal research that we can actually do, being that they're not alive, has shown that a lot of them were actually pack animals, and they lived in social groups. The most vicious carnivores, like the Tyrannosaurus Rex, obviously were more like lone hunters. But then I've even heard theories that the T Rex was actually a scavenger. So, we don't exactly know what dinosaurs were like, but just for the purposes of this metaphor, we think of reptiles as selfish, um, very driven by their um, base sexual, sensual emotions. And they're not even that sensitive. Actually, their eyes and their skin is all rough. They can't feel. The mammalian brain, that next stage in evolution, which when the dinosaurs were brought to extinction by the meteorite impact, so the theory goes, the mammals survived because they required less energy. They were more efficient survivors, and they also had a more complex brain that was built on top of the reptilian brain that was emotional. And if it's a matter of contention whether or not the reptiles were social animals, it's a certainty that mammals are social animals. Um, then, as the mammalian brain developed for pretty much 65 million years, up to maybe 5 million years ago, when the first real humanoid ape-like creatures that could walk upright for long periods of time started to develop, and then various species and branching off of different types of hominids led to Neanderthal and Cro-Magnon man that either interbreeded or just Cro-Magnon man was a little more intelligent and agile and beat the shit out of Neanderthal man and became the reigning um, species of human beings. But the cortex, especially the neocortex that grew on top of the mammalian brain, which was also enveloping the reptilian brain, allowed a greater sense of individuality, you might say, or at least that's how it's been interpreted um, by modern humans, which is sort of the culmination of that idea. But really, I think what's happening is the brain, as it develops like this, is gaining a better ability to reflect the outside world or to know it. But it's a different kind of knowing. It's knowing of the self, which isn't just me. The self is the other. The self is not what the brain contains. The self is the relationship between the brain's pathways and the world's pathways, because they're coupled together. They're a loop of perception. Perception is the interaction or the transaction between my membrane and my brain and the world. And so the brain is just this sensory motor loop. There's no, I mean, it almost sounds like I'm saying there's no consciousness, but there is, because consciousness is consciousness of the whole organism. I never know myself. I can never have consciousness of myself without a body.